Multisigs are great. Multisig bridges.
Not so much.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Really love Hyperbridge. You see what they do. They want to leverage the economic security that the relay provides to supplement the otherwise whatever security the bridge has. And so we want to do something very, very similar. But instead of, for bridging, it's for account unification.
Now you're saying instead of many accounts on many chains, we can have like one account that can do things on all these blockchains. All right, thank you for tuning into the Teach Me DeFi podcast. Another episode with a lovely guest on the show. Today we got Dakota here, co-founder of InvArch. Hi, mate.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
Lovely. Thank you for coming on the show. I'm looking forward to diving into DAOs and multisigs and everything that comes with that sort of territory. I thought we could start this off with a quote I found on your website. Which said, one account, any blockchain, infinite possibilities. Yes. That sounded good to me. It has a nice ring to it. No, but seriously, it sounds like this is echoing the fact that we got all these different blockchains with different things you can do on them, different applications on them, different assets on them. And we got all these different accounts or wallet addresses associated with each one of them. And we have to kind of manage all of them separately, and it's a user experience nightmare at times. So, and now you're saying instead of many accounts on many chains, we can have like one account that can do things on all these blockchains. So just tell me more about this. What does this mean? What are you building there?
Yeah. So great thing to start off with. This is actually something that, of course, we're most passionate about. And so I guess to kick things off, first I want to kind of paint a picture. And so when we view the future of Web3, more importantly, when we look at interoperability, everything being connected and working together, so far the focus has been on one plane, a very important plane, the foundation of it all. But that is the ability to connect chains so that you can send assets or messages between different networks. However, for each new chain connected, it's a new account to manage. All right, so that's one very important thing to keep in mind. And then the other second very important thing to keep in mind is that there will always be variety. Whether it's, and when I say variety, I mean variety outside of Polkadot. You know what I mean? Polkadot is going to be around forever. I believe Ethereum will be around forever. I think Solana is making its way to being around forever. Cosmos chains that'll be around forever. And so no matter what your preference or what your flavor is, there's always going to be these different networks. And so to deliver Web3 to users, to institutions, to organizations in a way to where it really is a singular environment, we address what we call account fragmentation. So all of these different networks, all of these different accounts. And so today, if I want to go access the web, then I just need a single browser. One browser, I'm going to go, I can go everywhere. However, with Web3, that's not the case. Even if there is, I can maybe have a single browser to go to all these different dApps, but I need a different wallet if I want to truly access all of them. And so it's a very fractured experience, and it breaks apart these networks as far as UX is concerned. And so we want to make it, and we are making it, so that you just need this one single master account. We'll be working with bridges, very, very bullish on Hyperbridge. I love Sean. You just had him on recently. I love a lot of respect for that guy. Love what they're doing. And then of course, there are things, there's the composable team, what they're doing with IBC. Love those guys. And then yes, there are things like Wormhole and Axelar, which, I won't shy away from either. There's all of these different, I want to use them all, use these all. Let them focus on what they're best at to connect these chains. But then we want to make sure that individuals, but more importantly, that organizations, that DAOs, institutions and multisigs, that they can manage all of their assets natively, hold their assets natively on any chain, transact with those assets, access any service or protocol on any network, and just have a singular experience. Because we believe that with this, if we can, when we deliver this to the world, it's going to make it to where it's the only account. It's the last account you're ever going to need. And with this one account, you now have the freedom to experience Web3 as one domain. And I think that's going to be very powerful, if not absolutely necessary, for long-term global adoption.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Yeah, how would that work? Can you tell us a bit more about this? I mean, I sort of understand controlling chains secured by Polkadot, like parachains, but controlling like native accounts on separate blockchains such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, with your InvArch account, like how would that work, and how is that secure?
Yeah. So there's two ways, I guess, two iterations that you're going to see. The first one is what we're doing right now, purely in the Polkadot ecosystem. And so in the Polkadot ecosystem, using XCM, we can create sort of like this master account. It allows you to, everything I just said before, hold assets on any chain. And this is all using XCM, transact on those chains, use them, actually do a bit more than that. We can even make it to where NFTs on other networks, so like an NFT collection or an NFT community on Astar or Moonbeam, can be the signers or the controllers of a master account on our network, which then holds assets on Centrifuge, on Bifrost, on Hydra, and uses those protocols as well. So it's a very, very powerful for the Polkadot ecosystem. And again, this is using XCM. There was an original approach that we were taking within about 12 hours ago, give or take, from the time that we're recording this now. Gabe actually was present on the fellowship's open dev call. We have an RFC that we had been trying to push. The RFC has support from everyone who has truly dived into it. The code at one point was even merged to the Polkadot code base and everything. Unfortunately, Gavin kind of unilaterally took it out, reverted that, so that we went to the RFC process. I won't mince words. It's been a horrible process. It needs a lot of improvements. I think it's very damaging for the ecosystem, the way that things are now, and we can't let Gavin slow us down anymore. We want to do things that are focused on bringing users to the ecosystem, making the ecosystem more accessible for actual adoption. And so with that in mind, and with that being our core goal, we're going to have to revert from the RFC bit. We don't have time to spend months and months more talking in circles about something that is really simple.
Right.
And so we're coming up with a new solution. Actually, Gabe has already, in a matter of, I think it took him about 2 hours, came up with a solution. So
Oh wow.
technically, our account will provide a master account, but technically there will be two separate addresses. You'll have an address for a same address across all parachains, and then you'll have a unique address for the relay chain. The RFC would have made it to where it really was just one address for everything. But this is the second best thing that we can do, and it's done. We're ready to go. So with this, we should actually, sooner than later, actually be able to launch a Saturn Gateway, which is our application that will be realizing this and providing this this multi-chain gateway for the Polkadot ecosystem, providing a multisig solution for all parachains, and more importantly, making it more accessible for institutional investor capital to access and inject capital into the whole ecosystem, regardless of whether that chain has a multisig palette. The cool thing here is like the service that Fireblocks provides, which is limited. There's a bottleneck. Let's put it that way. There's a bottleneck. They don't service all parachains, for example. And so that is it's very limiting because institutions want a multi-sig. They want a single solution. They want convenience if they're gonna put their capital towards an ecosystem. So we're looking forward to moving forward on that here very soon. Like I said, if there's an obstacle, we problem solve. Did that. Now looking forward to rolling this out here soon.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Good to hear you found a solution
Yes.
for that issue.
I know.
Finally,
Yeah.
yeah,
I was like, I know it's probably like controversial things I say, at some points, but
that's
I'll
okay. We're
say on like
happy
a
for you.
separate note, there's
Yeah.
I don't know, the ecosystem we know it has the best tech, we know it has the best infrastructure,
Yeah.
but we also understand the pain points. We know that user adoption it's such a frustrating thing to be struggling with because we have the best of everything. But so, ultimately the absolute success of Polkadot that's in my interest, when things got tough and some others, let's say they've evolved and adapted towards other avenues. We just doubled down on this space. So achieving these things and achieving mass adoption in the ecosystem, having superior user experience that can compete with other ecosystems, it's of an utmost priority to us. So
Yeah.
I'm always going to fight
Yeah.
like hell for that.
Yeah, I believe that. We can get to that later as well. I mean, you have been quite outspoken when you notice something that you disagree with in the
Yeah,
ecosystem, and I thought that was really refreshing and direct. And I think
thank you.
friction is needed. Friction is not
A little's good, you
always.
know what I mean?
Yeah, just to problem solve, to recognize there's problems, and to start a dialogue is always important.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, good to hear you found a solution there. Funnily, I did watch that yesterday for the people who missed this. That was I believe it's the Polkadot core developer open call,
Mhm.
which I think is really a cool thing, and I don't know if many ecosystems do that way. I wouldn't know of any
I
where
don't
you
think so.
kind
It
of.
is a very good thing too. It's great for like anyone who hasn't. I mean, you'll see Gabe, who's our CTO, kind of go toe to toe with Gav for like a good 20 minutes. But but even in that too, the fact that people can openly watch that exchange, I think it's very very healthy. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
So like being able to just see them talk about everything from the nitty gritty to what's big and important.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I tried to understand, but a lot of it went over my head, absolute accounts, relative accounts, and all that. But it was an awkward but also interesting and entertaining exchange to watch. I don't know how to describe it exactly,
No, yeah,
but
it's I mean, it's good and healthy. It's just frustrating because it's at the end of it, it's like a lot of arguing over semantics. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Mm.
Which can be quite trivial, in my opinion. Um, but nonetheless, I think it's very good. It's good to have those discussions because no matter which side of the conversation you may stand or lean towards, it's good for everyone to be able to see those, make up their own minds, opinions, and just be as informed as possible.
Yeah. So for everyone who hasn't checked it out, you can watch basically the core developers who develop Polkadots on these calls, like on their calls to discuss developing the network. And they're open and live, and I believe they're hosted by the Kuzamarian. Shout out to them. That's a nice initiative to check out. But yeah, just give us a bit of an idea of what people could do with InvArch then, with this sort of leveraging this this environment of one account controlling activities on many blockchains. What are sort of examples of that, things that you cannot do currently that you would be able to do then?
Yeah. So the really important thing is this to us. So the way that we approach our architecture and the way that we bring power to DAOs is to provide an experience that is similar to the network effect that we see take place on places on monolithic networks like Ethereum or like Solana. And what I mean is, now typically wherever you launch a DAO, it matters. You are choosing like which network you deploy on. That is the confines of your economy. You know what I mean? It's like
Mm,
choosing which state or which country you want to start your business in, and assuming that it's not a borderless business. You know what I mean? That's the thing.
mm,
DAOs today are in the same sense of like what a borderless business would be, but on chain, they're not. They're confined to that one network.
mm,
Now, the pro and con of other ecosystems is, you can deploy on this one network and you are limited. However, typically that one network, it's monolithic, so you have all of these different protocols and services launching via smart contracts. And the thing is, all of those services that get deployed, it's just like building up a real economy. You know what I mean? So if you're like, building up a country or building up a city, you have all of these different services. Some, many of which are financial services. So we have DeFi services, and then a lot of them, collaboration tools, things like that. And you have all these services together, and it's what helps an economy thrive. It allows, B2B businesses and all this stuff. And it's very different here in the Polkadot ecosystem, because it's not a monolithic experience. We want to make it similar. We want it to be as scalable as the Polkadot vision. That we want that's the reality of Polkadot, super scalable. But it's severely fractured. Which I think, and what I mean by fractured is, if you were to launch a DAO on Moonbeam or on a Star, or let's say just even on InvArch, and assume that we didn't have this, one account all chain solution, then the services that DAO, that business, or this organization can access are limited to whatever services have been deployed solely on that one network, and it's very limiting. We're going to have different chains that are optimized. We have many chains that are application specific. So, for example, there's Hydra. You know what I mean? We have this big liquidity protocol. It's where you can swap for assets. And the alternative for, right now for DAOs, if they, to launch a DAO on Moonbeam or here or there, you can only use whatever, you can only access the liquidity and the DeFi protocols specifically on that network. Hydra is irrelevant to you, unfortunately. But that shouldn't be the case. You know what I mean? We want to create something that allows us to achieve and realize a true network effect. So to answer your question, the benefit of launching a DAO on the InvArch network is that the access to services, the economy around you grows and flourishes at the same scale as the network effect alongside the entire Polkadot ecosystem, not just our one chain, not just Astar, not just Moonbeam, or not just, insert next network here, but as a new service, whether it's a new protocol or a new feature that's deployed as a smart contract on those chains, or it's a new application specific blockchain that, launches on the relay. No matter in which form or flavor that this service is deployed or added to the Polkadot ecosystem as a whole, it becomes something that this DAO can then access. And so it allows the experience. More importantly, it realizes Polkadot as one country with many states. You know what I mean? And that's what I believe is one of the most powerful things, or can be one of the most powerful things about Polkadot, is this network effect that we always talk about. But we don't want to talk about it. We want to do it. We want to achieve it.
Yeah.
And so by launching a DAO on InvArch, you don't need to worry about which network you launch on. That becomes a question of the past. You don't need to worry about that anymore. The one thing that you know is that by launching here, you can have access to everything. So by launching on this one network, you don't limit yourself. You launch here, access to everything. And the really important and powerful thing too is there are a lot of features that, like Kilt, for example. I love Kilt. Love Kilt. Partnering with Kilt, actually, some alpha. Working with them, got some things going on. But one of the really, really cool things is about Kilt, the powerful things is, you hold credentials on that chain. And by holding your credentials on that chain, you're able to utilize them as a decentralized identity provider, or use them for DID. And now for a DAO to own its own credentials, the thing is about Kilt, the credentials must be held on that chain. So the only way that a DAO could do that is if you actually deployed a DAO on Kilt. But of course, that's not what Kilt is made for, so that wouldn't work. Now with InvArch, because a DAO launched on our network can natively hold assets on this chain, well, now we can start to explore things such as a business holding its own credentials, having KYB credentials, and taking the future, I would say, demands for compliance that will come about across the globe. We're all going to be built for it. You know what I mean? So it's just I don't know. It's just really powerful. That's the big thing is you launch here. That way you don't have to limit yourself by launching only somewhere else.
Yeah. Wow, there's so much to talk about there. I mean, for one, that is sort of the idea of Polkadot, right? To have like this interoperable ecosystem of like application-specific environments, and so you don't have to rebuild the wheel again on each chain, like you said. But we haven't really leveraged that yet to a large extent. So it's interesting to hear that you guys are trying to do exactly that, and
it'll make it easier too. Is like I just want one last thing is because the teams deserve their flowers for this. So like for example, the Hydra team, the Hydra team getting it so that the fellowship can send assets from the treasury on Asset Hub. They can send things over to Hydra. They can swap. They can do all this. That's a very, very powerful feature. But the way it's achieved is, and it worked, I'm not taking away from it. It's with the tools in their toolbox, they built the best solution that there is, and they made it work. but it shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be that complicated or that messy. It's like an ironic testament of the state of Polkadot right now, you know?
Yeah.
And so with this, it makes it to where you don't need to have like an intricate, you know, proxy setup of different multisigs and accounts on different networks. You just have this one. And the thing is, if I don't know, the fellowship decides one day we want art, you know, we want to get real world assets, we want to invest in them using Centrifuge. It's literally as simple as using the account. One of the members goes, clicks to do exactly that. It'll generate the call. It'll you know, show in the UI. It'll make it into a proposal. Members vote on it, and if there's consensus, it'll execute all on its own. You don't need to go and set things up so that, you know, at a lower technical level just to achieve it in the first place, and then go about, you know, making the proposal to do all these things. You can just operate as an entity like you and I do. If I want to go do something, I go to it, I click, I do it. The only difference is between that click and execution is a proposal. But it's going to make it so easy for DAOs, for anyone on any chain, to just work together and do things. So we're really, really excited for it.
Yeah, I like that, what you said, ironic statement of the state of Polkadot right now. There's two things there. I mean, for one, it sounds to me like it would make things much easier for organizations, like you said, and in general, to do kind of compliant activities. Like you said, you could leverage like the decentralized identity part from Kilt, and then you have the multisig, which with one account you can control all your assets on all these chains, which multisigs are essential for organizations to use. And to use this easy hasn't been like the case for Polkadot because of the fractured nature. But at the same time, it sounds to me like this is also interesting just from a user experience for individuals. Like I'd imagine I'd find this myself cool if I could do like one-click things that happen on all those chains then. Can you just dive into these two sides of the coin, sort of, that would be enabled with InvArch there, I guess?
No, yeah. So like, well, so for an individual user, that's like one big thing is the fact that, you know, no matter where, if you're looking for like extra security, you know, well, let me say this: there's two versions, like I said earlier. There's the first iteration, which is solely in the Polkadot ecosystem, and so for an individual just in the Polkadot ecosystem, it probably won't radically change your user experience, just because as long as you have Talisman or a Nova wallet, then as far as you're concerned, you're like, yes, you do have all these different accounts, but it's all in this one wallet. You know what I mean? It's all together. And so the experience is very similar to if you had this one account. However, when you look at what we're going to be rolling out in the future, which is using a threshold signature scheme protocol for multi-party computation and off-chain signing, this is when you'll be able to have a single master account, you know, powered by InvArch, secured by Polkadot, that lets you manage your assets on Ethereum, all of its L2s, Bitcoin, Solana, Cosmos, Avalanche, Dogecoin, friggin' the Hoopla chain someone just launched 5 minutes ago. You know what I mean? Like, it will truly be the only account that you'll ever need. And so with that, you know, we'll provide this, and then whether it's Talisman, Nova, you know, Pluto, another wallet that comes about, whoever, all of them, you know, any wallet can then use will be our SDK. They can implement this so that all of their users can just create that one master account and just have one wallet. One wallet you can use, access everything, you know, how they want to design their UIs and all that. We'll leave that to them. But it's like I said, with this, then you truly would just need one wallet. One wallet, you're good to go. You can take it a step further. Then we could have teams start to create browsers where, like, actual desktop browsers, similar to Brave, but we can do better. Although I'm about to sponsor an event with them. I love Brave. But you could do better. Brave could do better, you know, if they want to use this too, whoever. And you completely embed the wallet into the browser and everything. You can abstract. It's not just account abstraction. This is true chain abstraction. You know, when you don't need to, you'll be using a protocol on this network, this chain, that chain, but you don't need to necessarily be aware, you know, like, am I on Ethereum? Oh, I'm going to Solana. Let me get my Phantom wallet. Oh, I'm going to Polkadot. I'm going to need Talisman. You don't have to worry about all that. You just have your one account. So your life is going to become a lot easier. Just put it that way. Simplified,
Right.
easier to access, and I think it'll also change the landscape, change the industry too. Because when we can finally move past this point of UX and adoption, it's an important point to talk about. But when we can finally move past it, then more and more people can just more purely focus on the new products and services that are getting added to the new iteration of the internet. You know?
Right. Yeah. Can you tell me more about in terms of chain abstraction to other blockchains? For example, if I would be using a Bitcoin account, then through my InvArch account. For example, if I wanted to receive Bitcoin, I would still have to give them the Bitcoin address, right? Or is that, yeah.
So you'll actually be able to give. It wouldn't. So there's two ways to go about this. So there's two ways. Now, because of how UIs on other platforms, how they, like for example, if I go to Coinbase and if I add an address that is anything different from Bitcoin, then it will probably give you an error. So there's going to be two things that we have. Technically, there will be like just the InvArch account. That address, you can send a native asset from any chain to that address, and we will automatically, all the accounts are all linked to that master account. And so we will automatically route those funds to the correct chain. Unless, like if you specify, you want to send Bitcoin also, but if you want to send a Bitcoin or like route Bitcoin on a different network, then you just specify the network, make sure it gets there. We do all of that routing ourselves. But we'll also provide the option, of course, to accommodate current UIs. That way, if you want to, specifically like I need the actual Bitcoin address that's linked to this account, then you'll be able to find that as well. It'd be as easy as just being able to go in, click receive, and then if you don't want to choose the master account, then you could click, see all addresses, put in BTC, or no, better yet, put in Bitcoin or put in Ethereum or whatever, and then it will pull up that network specific address for you.
Right. And how is this secure? How is this actually done? How is this made possible?
So with XCM, like so the first iteration, that's enough security is provided by the relay. Now, when it comes to the next iteration of what we're going to be rolling out, and this will take us anywhere from, I'll say 1 to 2 years. I'm bullish on a year, but I'm going to say 2 years just to be safe. But I feel good about one. But with that, so we are going to be rolling out, like I said, a TSS, a Threshold Signature Scheme Protocol. And so with this, we will have our own layer of security. We are exploring if there is a way to achieve this using just our collators. You're trying to take advantage of Polkadot security specifically for this. So option route one, because we are still finalizing the research phase right now. We know it's possible. We're just trying to figure out the most effective, efficient path forward to do it. So the desired path, option one would be to make it to where using our collators and by leveraging the security provided by the relay, it's that, like $10 billion network. It's a lot of crypto economic security. That would be the most ideal. If for whatever reason this is not achievable, then the second route would to then have our own bits of security. So we will have to have like similar to how like a validator set is whipped up. It's similar to that. So they're not validating blocks. They are kind of like validating or signing transactions for individuals. So you'll have a bunch of different signatories always get together whenever there's the need, and they'll sign off. This is the multi-party computation. So you have multiple actors come together to sign off on a message. And so we would have that, and that would be backed by a separate layer of security from Polkadot. So obviously one is easier. One's obviously that comes with also out of the box billions of dollars of security. So that is what we are interested in first and foremost. But if for whatever reason that can't work out, then we'd have to whip up our own scheme. And like I said, it is similar to validator set, but what we're looking to do differently here is because like MPC, a multi-party computation, or TSS, a threshold signature scheme protocol, that in itself, like we're not the first to create this. We have like Fireblocks, for example, they use this, and they say it's decentralized. It's not. It's not decentralized. I don't know. I wish they'd stop saying that. Decentralized is there's more than one person or more than two people. It's decentralized. It's a
pretty
nice
common sin of our industry, I'd say.
Yeah. Because the reality is, if heaven forbid, but if you put the entire Fireblocks team, the whole team, put them on an airplane, and the airplane blows up,
Yeah.
everyone using their services is in trouble. You know what I mean? Like there's because
Similar
one of the
to
key signers is a central authority. You
right,
know what I mean?
right.
So
Similar to that
that's
multi-chain thing in China,
yeah.
was it?
Well, I mean,
I
it was
think
so like, well, you
the
see when there is this
government.
alliance.
Mm,
I think with multi-chain, I forget exactly what happened there, but I remember like it wasn't like there was at least a team member that had gone
yeah.
rogue. You know what I mean? Like taking funds and things like that. I mean, well, there's another thing too. You know, when with that, I don't Fireblocks couldn't necessarily do that with this. But the issue is that like they couldn't do this to seize funds, at least as far as I know. However, if Fireblocks, like I said, if the whole team, if it all blew up, boom, like their servers, their computers too, they all blow up, and their people are going to be in a lot of trouble. Their funds are not
Mm,
safe in that context. And so it's important for us to design a truly unstoppable system to where once it's deployed and it's designed well and it's doing its thing, it'll chug along no matter, the whole InvArch team could just combust one day.
mm,
And as sad as that would be, the system will keep on chugging along, and that's what matters. You know what I mean?
yeah.
We want to build a system that stands the test of time. It's this permanent addition to the new web. We see it as like a
Right.
foundational protocol that'll be here for a very, very long time, if not forever. And so we'll be working on a decentralized, like a cycling TSS protocol to where you can have signatories, different signers, cycle in and out of a set. You don't need to have the same people always come together to sign on something, which is usually how it works now. Once these 3 or these 4, however, once these people come in and they're set, they generate this account. If you want to do anything involving a different set, a different combination, they would they generate a different account, and then obviously that breaks what we're trying to do here. So by having this cycling signatory set, which is the unique novel bit here, but by achieving this, you can have it to where you don't need to have this consistent signer. You don't need to have a private company as a consistent signer. You can have people coming in and out like validators in a set, coming in and out to this system without compromising the goal of a single account.
Right, right. Yeah, so you're trying to make this solution as trustless, decentralized, and secure as
Yeah,
possible, which makes
unstoppable.
sense
Yeah,
then to
yeah,
leverage Polkadot's network, Polkadot's economic
yeah.
security, so to say.
Yeah, similar to like how Hyperbridge. You know what I mean? You have
Yeah, yeah.
bridges are they're secure, typically backed by some value. A lot of them are kind of just like multi-sigs are great. Multi-sig bridges.
Not so much.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Hence why I really love Hyperbridge.
Yeah,
But similar, you see what they do. They want to leverage the economic security that the relay provides to supplement that the otherwise whatever security the bridge has, alone. And so we want to do something very, very similar, but instead of for bridging, it's for account unification.
right. Have you checked out? I'm actually not quite sure. We had someone from Near on recently, from the Near blockchain ecosystem, and I believe Near is trying to do something similar. Have you ever looked into that, or is that something comparable? Or
No, I mean we've looked around. I haven't looked recently,
yeah,
only because we're at a point now to where we have a solid system, and so even with our research, we know what those two paths could be, and we know, it's more so just figuring out or making sure there isn't a kink in the one system. If
mm-hmm.
there is, then we got to fall back to option B. But as long
Yeah,
as everything goes well, then I don't know. We're really bullish. We're very confident on what we're doing.
confident. Yeah.
Love to check out other competition, of course. When whatever the best out there, whatever the best competition that anyone can references, that must be our new floor. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
motto we go by. If someone comes out with something better, that becomes the minimal expectation of what we now need to deliver.
Right.
But so with that, I
I'll,
haven't checked things out, but I'll take a dive.
yeah, I'll look into it if there was something that was relevant here, and I'll let you know.
Okay.
Um,
I do know
right.
that like there's because this is an important thing I guess to note, because like in even like the Cosmos ecosystem, I remember I forget his name.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, Jake. I believe his name's Jake. Contributed to Juno and DAO and all this stuff. But anyway, I remember I was on a space once, and he, similar time as us, started to talk about creating like this like a one account across the Cosmos ecosystem. But one of the core differences, like then I want to point out, and a major difference from a lot of other solutions that we've seen, is they're all smart contract dependent. Meaning, if the chain doesn't have smart contracts, or even worse, if it doesn't have the specific virtual machines, like there's EVM, there's Solana virtual machine. If you don't have that specific virtual machine, then it won't work. And to us, then that's just not that's not the ultimate solution. You know what I mean? Especially it's like in the Polkadot ecosystem, there's going to be a lot of chains that do end up having EVM, even current ones that don't. Imagine, well, InvArch will actually end up having EVM here soon. We'll be adding it this year. But there's going to be a lot of chains that don't. And so we don't want to leave them out just because that, again, that would break the vision, the goal of having a single master account. You would then need a separate account for those chains.
Right. In terms of, I was just thinking, I have used multisig accounts on Polkadot and only to use DOT. So I believe, a multi-signature account on the relay chain, so to say, on the main chain, I suppose. And I was only using DOT with it. And multi-signature, obviously, in case someone doesn't know, maybe you can tell us a second about that as well, what that means. But then I don't think I could have used this account to like manage, for example, Glimmer on Moonbeam or whatever other Hydra DX's coin on Hydra DX or anything like that. I don't think that was possible. And then how does Saturn change all that, like your multisig?
No, beautiful point too. And you're absolutely right. So there's a few points I want to touch on. First is, so the immediate one, you do create a multisig on the relay, but you can only operate on the relay. Yeah. So if you want to, then that's it. This is just relay assets. If you want to manage your funds on Hydra, on Bifrost, on Glimmer, Astar, then you need to deploy a separate multi-sig. You need to manage it separately as well. So let's say you're a big enthusiast and you want to hold assets on 20 chains. Yeah. Okay, that's 20 multi-sigs. But then another point I want to touch on is many chains don't have the multi-sig palette. So in the case that they don't, then it's just not an option. You can either hold assets as an individual or just not at all. If you're really big on, I need a multi-sig. And some people are. That's the thing. There's many institutions that is an absolute must. You know what I mean? And so the difference with Saturn is...
Can you explain that for a sec? Sorry. Why that is a must for institutions? Like, what is a multi-sig?
Yeah. So the significance of a multi-sig is let's say the added layer of security that it holds over an account. So typically when you create an account, there is just one signer, which would be you. You know what I mean? However, if your one account ever got compromised, whether someone stole your seed phrase or whatever, it's also, then that's that. You just need this one account to get compromised. Furthermore, if one individual, so it's just you click on a phishing link, you know what I mean, or a link that's going to end up draining this account, then that's that. You know what I mean? It's just this single account is very damaging. Now the multi-sig difference is it is an account that is actually controlled by two or more accounts. Right? So you would get together like 2, 3, for however many signers you want, and you create this account, and then you set a threshold. And you say that nothing can happen unless 3 out of 5 of these accounts, sign off on it and approve. And so what's really significant here is even in the event that one account got compromised, the actual underlying multi-sig account and everything, all the assets in it, remains secure. Because even if that one account is compromised, that one account alone cannot move funds or do anything with this multi-sig. So it adds that level of security there. And then again, if you're clicking around and you click on a link that you shouldn't, your individual account is still at risk, but the multi-sig that you are a signer for, it remains secure, because again, nothing can happen unless there's a consensus, or unless that threshold is met in order for transactions to execute from that multi-sig account. So it's very, very important for institutions, of course. Right now, blockchain and crypto is like the Wild West, as they say. It's very, very much like the early internet days where people are, half of the people have no idea what's going on. Half the people are they're still getting mind blown that you bought something over the internet. And then there's a bunch of people clicking on links that they shouldn't.
Yeah.
And they're getting hacked. They're getting their accounts hacked, or their bank account, things like that. Whatever information they have their data is getting stolen. And so this is very dangerous. And so in the blockchain space, for an institution, especially if, let's say, you're managing, millions, if not billions of dollars of assets, clicking on something or having a rogue actor, drain that account, that's unacceptable. You know what I mean? And so if you want, let's say, so you want institutional or investor capital to deploy their capital into your network, onto your chain, but you don't have like having a multi-sig, it's just not an option. There's going to be many that then decide, hey, as much as we love this network, as much as bullish as we are on you, this, unfortunately, not having this, it's just a non-starter. You know what I mean? And so they will forego deploying capital in that ecosystem because they don't have a secure way to hold it, to manage it, to utilize it. And so it's very important. But with Saturn, we make it so that two really important things. So first and foremost, regardless of whether a parachain or in the future any chain has the support for multisigs, let's say native multisigs on their network, they don't even have to worry about it. Whether if you don't have that palette in your runtime, it doesn't matter, because someone could still use InvArch, use these accounts, use the multisigs powered by our network to securely manage their funds and deploy capital onto your chain. So that's very, very important. And then the second thing is, of course, it's awesome that we're going to be able to have, any chain will be able to benefit from this. But what's even better is not just the fact of like, oh, cool, I can have a multi-sig on any chain. It's a bit different. You don't need to worry about having multi-sigs everywhere. You know what I mean? You just have this one account and you're good to go. So we solve the problem of whether or not you even can have a multi-sig, and then we take it a step further by bringing just massive convenience to institutions, organizations, individuals looking to manage their funds using a multi-sig account.
Right. And all these features, they're quite powerful, and there's quite a range. I mean, you also have like gasless transactions for DAOs. You can assign different roles for signers in multisig, I believe, and all that. So there's all these kind of powerful primitives there. And how do you make this in the end into like a product that is easy to use? There's something that's easy to use for users. Is that then like a user interface and all that?
Yes. So right now we're actually doing something kind of similar, I guess you could say, to like the Subsocial team. I'll use them as an example. So what they did is they rolled out different products, let's say smaller products, you know what I mean, that in the end they all kind of, now they're creating a super app of sorts, you know what I mean, that kind of pulls all these things together. And so we're having like a similar approach where, like, for example, right now we have DAO staking. Thanks to the changes to accounts that I mentioned earlier that Gabe whipped up in response to the RFC, we'll now soon be deploying Saturn Gateway. And so this will be like an asset management platform. We have GetArch, which will be rolling out here soon. We're just waiting for the Saturn multisig accounts to get in there. So we're going to roll this out. And that is, it's fully on-chain repository management using Git. And so you're probably thinking like, what do all these things have to do with one another? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in the end, what we're going to be providing is a super app of our own. And it'll be a super app, the only app that you would ever need to completely run your digital organization. So everything from having a nice smooth interface, and I'm drawing from things such as like Zenefits, which is it's a SaaS company software that many companies in the US use for helping to like manage your business from an administrative standpoint. It's like HR and all that stuff, company, your organization structure, payroll, salary, but then of course we can take things a step further. So like, for example, you touched on gasless transactions. So we will have a subscription model, very similar to what people are used to in the Web 2 world. A subscription model where, depending on the size of the organization, you can pay a monthly or annual fee, and you pay this. And now your members, they don't need to worry about, like I need to go do my job, but I don't have enough DOT in my account. You know what I mean?
Darn
Like,
it.
well, I can't clock in. Like, that just wouldn't work. So being able to alleviate that, and it would be very similar to, for example, a business. Let's say I want to use Slack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which we don't, we use Discord. But let's say if I did, we used to. So if you want to use Slack and you want to access the features and have your team onboard your team, I don't ask my team to pay hey, you got your $5 for the monthly bill. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. Use the company pays for it. In this case, the DAO. Your DAO could also pay for these services directly from the DAO's treasury. Of course, that way it's not, you don't want to have a single person responsible for it. The DAO can just do it. But so you can have gasless transactions, and then you can also have like the roles that you mentioned. So similar, I guess, like a way to describe this, so it makes sense to viewers is, imagine Discord. Anyone who's ever been in, set up, especially if you ever set up a Discord server, you know that you can create a role and call it whatever. You can create many, many different roles, and there's a plethora of all these different functions that a role can do. And you basically get to go through, and it's like, yes, like you can do this or you can't do this. Like, yes, yes, no, yeah.
Simple.
And it's very similar to where you can define a role, and then there's all of these different functions on our chain and across different chains as well. And so by default, just say everything's no to be safe, and then you can go through and enable what, this role has the ability to call these functions. You can take it a step further. You can also say that it has the ability to call these functions or call this function this many times within a certain period. And you can even still have it to where, if where these parameters make sense, you can call this function. Let's say call this function once. It's to send assets, but there's a limit. You can only send 500 VARCH or 1,000 USDC. You know what I mean? And you can only do this once a week. And then that way you can make it to where you can have a business, a digital organization flowing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Flowing to where, like, let's say every single action doesn't require a proposal. You know what I mean? You can have roles with rule sets, which, I think it was actually in Gav's recent interview with the Kusumarian. And he mentions like DAOs and rule sets and this stuff. And this is something that we've been big on for a while, is not just making it to where, like, yes, there is this collective decision making, but we want to remove trust from the business process and scope as much as possible. Even, going further and making it, one thing we'll explore and we'll implement in the future is the ability to have like trustless pay raises. So like typically today, the average hourly or salary employee, what they should do at least is they typically they work very hard in hopes that they'll earn a raise. You know what I mean? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. You know what I mean? Regardless of how hard they work, let's say they were the best person, they were on fire. They might get told no, or they might get lowballed. You know what I mean? And so, because there's about as much hope as there is trust in that process. And you realize that nothing's guaranteed there. But what if it could be? So what if we gamify it a little bit? What if we make it to where there are certain KPIs or certain objectives that you need to hit over whatever period, let's say a weekly period, and every week that you check those boxes, you hit those marks, you get a token, like a power up, like a bonus multiplier. You have a base of 1, whatever, I earn this much a week times 1, But then when I knock everything out, I get one of these tokens, which we can abstract away. You don't have to call it a token, but on chain, that's what it is. The semi-fungible token. And it's a bonus multiplier, and they stack. So it's just like in a video game, you have your sword and you hit the bad guy, and you get a little damage roll, and you hit him again, it goes up and up and up and up. And you can have you could have a cap, you could have this, but just like in that game, if you stop, sometimes it just drops off. That might be a bit drastic. But you stop and it'll start to dwindle down. You know what I mean? It's like that 5x, 4.9, 4.8, 4, you know what I mean? And then if you get back into it, it'll start to go back up. And so we can have systems just like this, to where an individual, as long as they're doing what they need to do, they can have this automatic trustless boost or bonus applied to their salary rates. You can also make it to where, once 100 of these tokens are earned, there's a permanent increase to your base salary. You know what I mean? That way, even if you do start to fall off, like, hey, you killed it, you've earned this, And the thing is, all of these conditions can all be predefined and preset transparently before someone even accepts a role. That way they know exactly what they're getting into.
Right.
And I'm very bullish on this taking off because I
Yeah.
believe that this is something that will provide the best quality, the best experience for employees. It will help to
Yeah.
attract the best talent. And it's like one of those trends where once the best talent starts to go towards one model, you'll then see others start to adopt that model in order to keep up or otherwise not lose their best talent. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. If you could sort of show the viability of this with a specific set of users, for example, probably first it would be companies and entities and teams that are already working in the crypto industry and managing multisigs and all that. And if that takes off, then you can go from there and have like
Yeah.
sort of like a business case showing this works. And people, like you said, will start expecting this transparency around it. It's a better model for the employees, but also for the people managing
Yeah,
these
yeah. It's like
things as well.
it's not it's like I don't know the way I see things with Web3, like the transparency, trustlessness. There are many of us, like myself, like I believe in that, and I'm passionate about that alone. You know, I mean, that alone is compelling for me. But I'm
Yeah,
also I'm pragmatic. I understand that that alone isn't enough for a majority of people. A
yeah,
majority of people, what ultimately drives their decisions is, does this make my life easier? Does it save me time? Does it save me or make me money? You know what I mean? And typically, if it doesn't do one of those things in a clear enough way, someone, I don't know, they couldn't be bothered. You know what I
yeah,
mean? But so if we're able to create trustless and transparent solutions that aren't just, you know, for the sake of it, trustless and transparent, but actually by leveraging these principles, provide a better experience for people, ideally an
mm,
experience that again helps them to achieve, like if you're earning a raise in real time, you know what I mean,
mm,
versus it being like just like that. We got to think
yeah,
all of that additional capital that someone earns during this ascend right here. That's extra
yeah,
capital on their day to day life that they can use to buy things, enjoy life more, invest, whatever it may be. And so, yeah, I feel good that as long as we build things that empower others, bring more value to their lives, that will be a really strong case for driving adoption. And of course, realizing this, like you said, first with DAOs, first in the being pragmatic, you know, low hanging fruit here in the Web3 space with DAOs, but validate it there, and then who knows, you know, maybe it'll be a traditional company, and they have a department of theirs start to use
mm,
DAO technology. Maybe their marketing
yeah,
arm, they start to use DAOs, or maybe, you know, it really is again still could be a private company and all this, but they want to use this technology to facilitate these automatic wage increases and things like this. And then you start to see these models, you know, picked up here and there. You have bold companies, that many of which in Japan, that are very friendly towards this technology as well. And once we see it get picked up, we see, and which I'm confident we'll see the benefits of it. And then like a domino effect, we'll see one
mm,
domino fall onto the next,
yeah.
and eventually we just have the big domino, which is the old system, falling over as it gets replaced by a new one.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like you said, it is useful because you, in a way, you are replicating things that are already in businesses and bringing it kind of like on chain, but you're also expanding on it. For example, I was thinking when you said there would be thresholds to like what rights I would have of how much money in the DAO I can personally spend without like having it approved by others. This is similar like in companies where like under a certain investment you don't have to file a board approval form and get the
Yeah,
approval of the board. So this is like something that is useful and done in practice, which you are also implementing, but then you're expanding on this, just making things more efficient, quicker and all that. I mean, simply the fact that I can spin up with X amount of people worldwide in seconds this multi-sig account and manage together with them assets. Imagine like how much more efficient that is than like setting up some sort of bank account with them.
yeah.
Like
So that's yeah. So it's like so what Bitcoin did for the individual, you know what I mean. So for the individual, which and I love it. It's you don't need a bank. You know what I mean. This gives you absolute control
mm,
for the individual. You know what I mean? But what we're talking about, it's the similar effects like unbanking businesses. And I mean, if we're able to provide them, and this is also like the really important thing about this one master account, is if this is the only account that you need, again, you can hold stables, network tokens, whatever. But if this is the only account you need, and you're able to access an entire economy of services, just like in the real world. So in the real world, there's all these services, but I need the dollar. That's the thing. So I need the dollar to access them all. And for us to store the dollar, we need a bank account, you know. But when you replace that with, hey, there's all these services and everything, and to access it all, we just need, you know, the respective cryptocurrency. And we have a master account that we use to control all this, that no one can take from the DAO, no one can stop. Then this is how we have, you know, in the same sense that we have unstoppable software, this is how we then have unstoppable organizations, assuming the business model is sufficient.
Yeah, super interesting. And where are you in the roadmap on all of this? And is there something you can already show us today, maybe?
Yeah. So I have like a presentation I'll share here in a moment. So I'm very, you know, excited to show you a little bit of what we have going on with Saturn Gateway, which we're getting ready to roll out. Here you can see a nice little overview of Saturn Gateway. So some things, of course, are still in the works. As you can see, you know, kind of missing some of the images over here with the accounts. But what this shows is one convenient dashboard, one single UI, where you can have, again, a single multisig or multisigs, you know, many multisigs. But from this one dashboard, you can see all of your assets, no matter which chain they're on. As you can see here, you know, same asset on multiple different chains, a single UI, a single multisig to manage everything. And it's just something that we're really, really excited to get out there. So you can see now, obviously, we also have the ability to send assets. We'll also have the ability to swap assets as well that we'll be adding. See your balances. You'll be able to see your balances in USD values, although, of course, these are not accurate right now. They will be later once we have everything hooked up correctly. But yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, this is a sneak peek at Saturn Gateway. Really excited to bring it to the ecosystem. Going to be a single asset management dashboard for all of your assets across any parachain, managed securely using a single multisig. Going to be really great for individuals, for power users in the ecosystem, for venture capital, institutions, and won't need to rely on integrations from, you know, more centralized companies such as Fireblocks, and kind of like waiting on their, you know, integrations if they even come. So yeah, just something that we're super excited to share with everyone, and can't wait for you all to use it in the future. But apart from Saturn, so what we're doing right now, we have a big event going on with Tinkernet. So we are rolling out, or we're in the midst of a campaign, the Future is DAO campaign, driving activity across Tinkernet and Gasless Finance, the respective activity involving the Tinker token. And this is to really push and pilot DAO staking, which is going to be launching here very, very soon on InvArch itself. We currently have 10 DAOs on Tinkernet, many of which are going to be launching on InvArch. So DAO staking is coming about here within a couple of weeks. We're going to be releasing Saturn Gateway so that you can, you know, start to whip up these master accounts for the Polkadot ecosystem.
Nice. So that's coming in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, everything is coming very, very soon. Yeah, we could have, like I said, we could have pushed some of these things out a bit sooner. There's you know, roadblocks outside of our control. We hit head on. We fight for it, but a lot of this stuff, and we've been ready to go. We've been talking about it, Saturn, for nearly a year now. We're ready to go. We are. We don't like to talk too much, you know what I mean? That's what we kind of been forced to do a little bit. But yeah, we have, like I said, DAO staking is about to launch on InvArch. InvArch network is on Polkadot, finally, after a 6-month crowd loan. So we got that going. We're getting ready to launch Saturn Gateway for the ecosystem. It's actually getting audited now by SR Labs. And also thanks to the Polkadot Assurance Legion. I want to give a shout out to them. Very, very useful service for any teams in the ecosystem looking for an audit. Much love for PAL, Polkadot Assurance Legion. We have that going, and then, you know, soon here, then we're going to look at GitArch, which, as I mentioned earlier, it's like on-chain repos. and then real quick, just to connect it all, like what the heck do these all have to do together?
Yeah.
You're going to have everything you need for a business to manage its assets, utilize its assets across any network, to manage and deploy its organizational structure, business rules, the logic, the roles, everything of the actual functions of that business, but then also the storage and management of the IP that it wields, which you can use. Code bases are stored using repositories, but so many other repositories. It's a very general structure. It doesn't have to be code. A lot of it likely will be. It can be code, music files, PDF, whatever. And using version, Git version control, it allows the DAO to manage and govern its repositories as a DAO. So then everything that a business or an organization would need to manage, control, execute, utilize, all of that is going to be all on our platform, all available for them. And again, we'll be pulling it together as a super app in the future. And of course, we'll be connecting to services and things like that. We'll have EVM on our chain. So there's going to be a lot of DAO tooling. We want to build a marketplace of services. There's things such as like tax tooling, of course, as well. We want to bring all of that in. And then, add all of the exciting protocols that exist across our ecosystem and across Web3. The ones that exist now, the new ones coming, the ones that I have no idea what the heck they even are, but they'll be here in 5-10 years. And all of that will continue to be added to this InvArch DAO economy.
That's awesome. And in terms of if people want to stay up to date with you guys or get involved, where would you point them?
So best thing to do is follow us on our official Twitter or X, X formerly Twitter. Still getting used to it. Accounts. So for InvArch, it's at InvArch Network, InVARCH Network, and then at Tinker Parachain for Tinkernet, which is our chain on Kusama. Other than that, you can also check out invarch.medium.com. To find our official blog there, and our website, invarch.network, and our Discord, which is discord.gg/invarch. Yeah.
Right.
I think
all
that's
these
all.
links. Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
We'll put them all in the show notes.
Awesome.
Sweet. Super interesting. I hope Saturn. I'm excited to try out Saturn when it comes out.
That means a lot to me too, because we get. I don't know. We're man, I can't express enough like how passionate we are about what we're building.
Yeah.
Like Gabe and I, like especially, that's just like my best friend. We love what we do. We love what we build, and what we love even more than it, I think, is it's the idea of people using it, and we're really excited to get it to people. We're excited for people to use it, and ultimately, we're excited confident to make everyone's lives a little bit easier.
Yeah, and thank you for giving us a glimpse into what it'll look like, a little showcase. Finally, I wanted to talk to you about this. You kind of mentioned it already a bit at the start. There were some moments where you publicly spoke out about like things that you disagreed with that were going on. I believe it was like directions of Polkadot or Parity, one of the major entities like in the ecosystem. I think it was on marketing, business development, events,
marketing,
that sort of thing. Yeah.
I've come out. I've come out on a few things, and I appreciate the opportunity. I'll try to be concise with it, but the opportunity, I guess, to elaborate or explain a little bit. But so in the past, I have more notably spoken out against the former CMO of Parity, which was in the marketing channel. I've spoken out against Bjorn, CEO of Parity. In a recent chat, I've spoken out again. Jesus, there is a list.
That's a long list, Dakota.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eric Wang, William Crossetier, I can't pronounce the last name properly, but I do apologize. But he used to lead investor relations and some troubles with the fellowship. And so on that, I'll just say this. The stuff with marketing, I was trying to say, this is going to sound really arrogant. I told him what was going to happen. He didn't listen. It happened. I don't want that to be the case. I didn't want that to be the case. I wanted to be listened to. And I understand, who the hell is this guy? I don't have a PhD. I didn't go to business school. I get it. But I did used to work in politics, and I was that anomaly. You know what I mean? Like, no, I didn't have a degree, but I will say that people who listened to my advice, I understand people. I know how people tick. I'm a person of the people. I don't know. It's like a sixth sense, but people who listen to me, they did remarkably well. And people are starting to listen to me now, which is good. But it was very frustrating because the Polkadot ecosystem has been alienated. It feels like when it shouldn't be. It's like the whole thing is interoperability and all this stuff. And like one of our biggest value adds should be the role that we can play, not for ourselves, but for the whole industry. And so there were some pain points there. I felt that what Polkadot needs more than anything, and it's important to understand, like, is it a product? Sure. Is it software? Technically. It's a movement. Before anything else, this is a movement. What got people so excited about Polkadot earlier on? Honestly, it was probably for most people, it was some simple YouTube videos that talked about creating the new web, unstoppable software, that cypherpunk ethos, and it was an exhilarating feeling. I just remember the goosebumps I would get from it because it spoke to me. It got me going. And it's like we've really detached from those roots. I remember there was a VP of talent at Parity. He's been hired and already fired. He asked me once in Berkeley, he just asked for my advice, like, hey, what would you do in his position? I told him, I was like, well, first and foremost, hire from the community. Hire people who already know what's going on, but hire for passion. I kid you not. He just looked at me and said, no. So
Really?
I didn't know. Well, okay. I don't know. I like thought I was gonna have a seizure. So I was like,
Yeah.
all right, walked away. And so like there was this pattern of disconnect, I feel like, and many people share this too. Like, it's not that people don't mean well, and Parity is full of some incredible people. Some of them are now gone, which really upsets me. But there are, unfortunately, some of those with the most power seem to be running things. The way I put it, it's like from an ivory tower without windows. You know what I mean? Whereas they don't. It's like there's this disconnect from the greater community, and I think it only hurts us. I spoke out events about Bjorn before, and that was just because my frustration trying to work and collaborate. I feel like all parachains, private parachains, like we're all building the same ecosystem. You know what I mean? Like we're all part of the same family, the same community. We're all in this together. And so we should be working together. We shouldn't be looking, this is how it felt sometimes, like either like we were just dismissed or like, like, I don't know. And Parity helped InvArch a lot. You know what I mean? A lot. I'm not taking away from that. A lot. There's fantastic people there. But there are some things that they're unacceptable. You see what's working in other ecosystems. We're not, it's not day one anymore. We're far past that. We see what's been working. We see what's good. There's no excuse for us not to be taking notes, and there's no reason that we should be making things harder on ourselves. And so the reason I spoke out there is because like after 3 months of trying to privately talk, I got stood up on one meeting with them for 2 hours. It was ridiculous. And I'm not the only founder who has had these experiences. I'm just the one who said something about it. And my words were a bit pointed, but unfortunately, that's how it had to be to get the attention it needed and not just be dismissed. And so that's why I spoke out there, and I'll continue to speak out. Like there's a proposal for decentralized futures. There's some great people on it, like Ray from Astar, fantastic. People from Polkadot Insider, incredible. But you have two cancerous cells in that proposal, and that's Eric Wang and William Crossettier. I really hate to say names wrong. There's those two people. I don't know what the hell they've done in 2 years. You know what I mean? I've seen one person says, "Oh, I've onboarded 100 teams, and my team did 250. That's 350." Do you see 350 teams? Do you see the? So like the thing, if you're going, I don't know what you did. All I know is the past 2 years, or after which there is no aftermath of your efforts. And I also know of bad habits that he's gotten in trouble for in the past that I don't know if I was, that's unacceptable. there are certain patterns of successful business and the people that you have in it, and you don't check those marks. And the ego is bigger than the track record at this point. And so I don't want to. I don't want to see people get paid who did a bad job with minimal supervision. I have no idea how they're going to do a great job with no supervision. That just doesn't make sense. And with like William, who's also on that, no, he sucks. I'll be honest. Like that's probably unprofessional. I don't care. He's bad at his job. In 2 years, his head of investor relations. Do you see all the new VCs that he's brought to the ecosystem? Because I don't.
I was
But
going to
funny
ask you
enough,
about
right?
that.
Yeah, it's hell. But then you see in Power Tour, and this is a testament. There's then Lucy, who is Bjorn's assistant. They got rid of William, who thinks he talked to me. He thinks he's done a fantastic job. Lucy, Bjorn's assistant, who has no prior experience with that, in 1 month achieved more on that front than he did in 2 years. You know what I mean? So power to her. I don't want to see people like him continue to get out of here at this point.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I was going to ask you. You mentioned you had I think in that post you had said we have parachains teams leaving. You have no venture capital entering the mix, and now even influencers are abandoning Dot. Where's your head at now with all this? What has happened since then? What's getting better? What's getting worse? And what's still the same?
So I'll be completely frank. So since then, I'm very, very big on Fabi and the Web3 Foundation.
Right.
Immediately, he reached out to me.
CEO, right?
Of the Web3 Foundation. Yeah, immediately reached out to me. Let's have a meeting. Let's talk. That. I wish there was more people like him. He's great. He really is. I've talked to him. He's a very great person.
Trying to get him on the
Bjorn
show,
reached out to me and he was like, we can have he let me know that he was disappointed. But that if I would still like to talk to write my concerns up in an email to send to Lucy that he can review all I'm saying is, I don't know if you've read the tweet, but I think the concerns were pretty well written out. And so it's thing, you see the difference in the hustle. Let's put it that way. You see who has hustle and you see who doesn't. And so I will say since then, I've actually only ever had, almost every founder has come up to me and thanked me for what I said and shared their similar sentiments of Bjorn. I haven't seen any change, to be completely honest, not from his front. I've seen Lucy, his assistant, she's kicking ass. Sorry for cursing. she's killing it. And I see the Web3 Foundation really stepping it up. And that's good.
Oh, that's
but
lovely.
I see a lot of people, so it's like on one side, I'm very disappointed, but on the other side, I'm very optimistic and hopeful, if that makes sense.
Right. Okay. No, that does make sense. We'll reconvene in a few months and then we'll see where we are at.
And I will say this too. It is nice. A lot of people didn't understand, but the work that Giotto has been doing, like if we're going to say, I'm not going to focus on has every single marketing proposal been the best? No, of course not. But I will say, if it's like a black and white, things are a lot better on the marketing front now than they were a month, 2-3 months ago. And so I do think there are people like Giotto pushing and getting things like that going. We see more big influencers talking about Dot. And that is good. It feels really good to see these things to feel relevant. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that does make sense. Yeah. And it's good. Anyone who wants to step up from the ecosystem, become an active contributor is always nice to see.
Whether you have bags or if you know how to be stubborn and persistent and a little annoying, you can make a difference.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good word to end on. Good sentence to end on. Dakota, thank you so much for coming on the show and telling us about all your building and being honest and direct as usual, as we love you. And yeah, I hope to chat soon again and see where you guys at with everything.
Likewise, thanks for having me on. Thank you to everyone who's taken the time to watch this and hear me ramble. Would love to have you support what we're doing, support InvArch. But most importantly, just thank you to you for this opportunity to come on your show. I really love the questions as well. I love the ability to speak freely. So, appreciate that. And likewise, looking forward to talking again here in a few months.
Sweet. Thank you so much. Our pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome.